you could argue that those are the two of the weakest. I think that Mo's potential has been unlocked, seeing as he's the highest rated player in the last 3 months out of these 10 in the server here this morning. And that's a good thing, because they've added a lot of firepower around him, in my opinion, with Bondic and Mir.
And that was a thing with Mo, that he could be relied on some maps. He just didn't have any consistency. So it's good that he's had a consistent performance recently, and that he's stepping up to become kind of like a more senior player of the team, and recognizing that the team is going to be built more around him. And he does pick up the most expensive weapon in the game, so he has to deliver. And it's nice to see. But as you mentioned, they did lose two very strong players. Adrian showing his value by going to FaZe, and Hobbit going Hellraisers. I mean, he didn't have to say much about Hobbit. Everyone knew he was an amazing player. And so him just wanting out is really worrying.
I mean, he specifically wanted to play with Angel, right? They released that HLTV interview where he said, this is the #1 reason that I've decided to join this team of all the options. Because I think Hobbit could have been an argument for a lot of other places. He has great English, his communication's on point, and he's a very all-around and heavy-hitting player. But in my opinion, I feel like that draw towards Angel would have been the same sort of connection and Counter-Strike that would have, allowed for him to succeed underneath the commands of Zeus. So if Zeus was the reason they had such a great major once upon a time, Hobbit wanted that kind of Counter-Strike, and he's going to get it there. There was a transition period before Bondic joined this team where they were playing with Demasik, and that kind of alluded to some struggles. Even in this CIS qualifier, to come to this minor, they came in the lower 4 teams. So, they were facing elimination down in the lower bracket, and they still managed to weather the storm. But the big question as well is around Axile, a 16-year-old Russian player here on Gambit, and he may have his hands full with Syman, who have begun on the CT side, because, folks, we're playing Train, and it's already a bit of Ivy pressure. We've got ourselves a pinch. The Betway odds, of course, giving it to Gambit because you gotta. But let's see. Let's see if the underdogs, the absolute underdogs, like Launder said, ranked 117th, the lowest rated team at the CIS Minor, trying to chew on Gambit to start the morning. Big Colonel defense over behind the A site. They have that entry past Ivy. Torek has to give it up, and now there's numbers, but are there headshots? There's one for Disbalance, and it goes back. He's got 3. That's so much damage, but it's so quickly swept under the rug.
Unlikely situation. He almost brought it back, but at the point that Gambit took control of Ivy, you could see how uncomfortable Syman were. They didn't have a setup that was prepared for that. They had 2 players, one on either side of Ivy, but one of them was so uncomfortable, moved his way over to camera and then to the back of bomb, and by that time Gambit were ready to pounce. So I think that Gambit had the correct strat coming out of the gate, going for the Ivy split. They put a lot of pressure on Syman. They felt uncomfortable, and they got away with the win because of that. But the firepower seemed good. There was some good shots being hit, so a little bit of solace for Syman.
I think winding up on Train here is a bit of a question mark in my mind. This is one of Syman's statistically most played maps, and we haven't seen Gambit here for a while, but we do know that once upon a time they were one of the best Train teams in the entire world. So let's see if we can unlock some of the potential. Doja leading the charge, dropped by the P250, as is Axile. It's only Mo's Galil to respond back with 2 kills of its own, but Pistols seem successful. There's a man advantage, swung back for only a moment because Mir's entry from T-Con has got the job done. And now it's all on Sanji, the captain and in-game leader of Syman.
Yeah, so we kind of just flew through the video, didn't actually see how the maps fell, but we do know that Syman like playing Train. In fact, it's the map that in recent times they've had the most wins on, and Sanji's still kind of in this, but because they spotted him, they can go through Z, get the bomb plant down on the B site, and go for the ultimate after plant, playing in the back lines here at CT, where Sanji is going to be rotating into.
I feel like this positioning might catch Mir off guard, but if he plays it safe and just allows Sanji to make the move, it should be him that walks into the crosshair instead. Bomb halfway gone, and whoa, he's got a chance, but he will still tumble. That's 2 survivors for Gambit after the pistol, but at least they keep their AKs on a pretty expensive round.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not a bad start at all. But yeah, they had they landed on Train, and you just have to wonder what Gambit did in this video, because it's not one of their most played maps or I think they have a relatively high win percentage, but the stats are very skewed just because of how little people have been playing recently. And there were just so many other options for them to get rid of first. And you would think that they would take out their opponent's best map to kick things off. But as you mentioned, they've had a history on Train. There's maybe room for them to have developed it during the break, and that's why we see this kind of strange veto to start things off. But we'll be here learning with you guys as to like what Gambit have prepared. So far, so good.
I feel like that's going to be a common trend this first week, right? We're getting back into the groove of Counter-Strike. Everybody is. It's a hand-in-hand type process. And there is an op on the field currently in that of Disbalance, the opper for Syman. Not facing off versus Mo currently because he's got an SG553. Not the only opper in the world now picking up that scope rifle.
It's a strong weapon. It's a little uncomfortable to switch over to it, but once you get started, it shows how powerful it is. Very accurate. Lots of damage. Kills him one less bullet in a spray than an AK. Conversation we seem to be having more and more. It seems like Nealon, I wonder if he faked throwing that flash, actually. Just wanted to try to pull the pin. If you switch late enough, you can try to bait somebody into turning around. It didn't have to have that flash actually go off, so he still got it in his pocket. With T-Con control, Gambit look to threaten this position as they seem to want to go outside. Ivy control already theirs. 35 seconds left, and a player is about to come cross into his angle, and he hits the first shot. It's clean.
Yep, Mo. Ooh, spotted out by Perfecto, who cannot get away. Doja's lurk out from Ivy is what nails him. And Torek up on the green train, he's surprised too. So it is the man advantage back for Syman, and they should have an idea as to where Gambit's gotten off to. It's Mo and Bondic to try and peel this one back, but 10 seconds left over. That is not the time you want to work with. A patient setup from Syman. They are forcing the hand of Gambit, and Bondic, he's gonna fall. That's the bomb dropped in the round over. 1-2, Syman early.
That could have been all Turek's fault, but instead he comes through and picks up 3 for himself. So his teammate dying as the man watching T-Con is probably pretty upset with him, but should have known his position on top of the train and understood that he had some kind of a blind spot. Doja, obviously, probably the best person on Gambit to try to take advantage of that and exploit it. But because he cleans it up, it's not going to be of any concern to Syman. They move on. They win the round. The last round, they did so much damage. It's actually pushed Gambit into a save situation. And Doja's here outside of T-Con. Looks like he's going to try to flash them to go down ladder or just use this as some kind of cheap fake.
A ruse could be in play. 4-man cohort into the top of B. Haven't seen much play in this direction. And who needs to receive? That is Sanji. A free AK with bodies stacking up. Controlled little spray down. The tap damage down range, and he's found himself 2. Good rotation from Disbalance there. Very little hesitation allows for him to opt the first shot, and Bondix sniffed out. Doja down the ramp with the bomb in an impossible situation.
A clean round, and suddenly the momentum has swung back in the favor of Syman, just like that, because they did such a good job on their anti-ecos, and they had a relatively clean rifle round as well. So Gambit don't even have enough money now to buy everything they want to, but they save for the prospect of these 3 AKs, a UMP and a Scout. It's not a great buy, and they have bought down to 0s. We can see contrast that with Syman, who have a little over 10K in total in the bank with their team, and they're not going to be so worried about looking at a buy like this. I think they're going to be happy to see this.
Ooh, MP9 denied. Nealon gets up close, definitely dishes out the damage. Poor Mir's going to have to use as an anchor now. His teammates move past him. And Perfecto, oh, he could clear it with the nade. Yes, sir. Mir's gone. And that puts a big gap now in this attack from Gambit because they don't know whether ladder room will be attacked. At any single moment, Perfecto could come flying outwards, but it's Torek who gets the chance. A near second headshot, but Axile's recovered this, and Sanji will do the same for his team as that bomb has now been planted. Axile in no man's land, lucky to dodge the op shot. But that bomb's still ticking quickly. Mo, his scope's gonna be in the back line too. Can Axile take the pressure? Seems not. Mo would love to swap to an automatic gun. His peak is predicted, and his position's known. And so it goes, back to the hands of Syman.
Nice. Sanji plays well as the rotator, comes in as late as he needs to. Perfecto throws that nade down to ladder and takes one out. Mir would have had a huge advantage in that fight. Didn't know if he should leave or come forward with how fast that nade came at him, and it was an awkward decision. I think he was just hoping that he wouldn't expose himself, and the nade would only do 20 or 30 damage, maybe leave him a couple points of health to try to fight the guy who comes down ladder. But Perfecto does a great job pushing inner quickly and calls out that Gambit are probably going to be light on places like ladder, places like T-Con, and focus on, and Ivy, and they focused on that T-Con rush and put Gambit back on another save. Just pistols here for the attacking side.
An opening pick already. Mir down for the count. We'll see if Gambit can work this one in. This has got to be tantalizing for Syman, most certainly. I mean, you just think about it. I feel like, you know, Doja, Bondic, Mo, these are three players who probably have more LAN experience themselves individually as all of Syman combined. So for this to be such a wide gap, you know, you wouldn't really expect Syman to be able to do all too much, but they're on the CT side of a map that they do enjoy. They had that rocky economic start for Gambit in converting pistol, and now the result is a strong beginning.
Yeah, Vito can make a big difference. This is also kind of one of the better LAN environments for them to come out on, where yes, they're on LAN, but there's no audience.
Right.
They've got the comfort of playing at computers with not much noise going on behind them. There's still going to be pressure, but it is the first match of the day, so Gambit are just as prone to maybe not being as sharp as they could be.
Oh, timing. Poor Sanji was about to drop the Molotov. Instead, Mo and Co will get down into the B-bomb site for relatively free. Now the kills should start to come in, and yeah, there you have it. Nealon with the flank on the MP9 will die, and that puts things in a little bit of a question. But with all these CTs already within the bomb site, it's a bit of a suicide run for Maxile. He'll get that damage in a second? No way. Doja has a chance now. They need to get this defuse, and both players do have kits, but he could catch them by surprise. They can't get their hands on the bomb. Disbalance finally starts the defuse, and Doja's gonna peek a little too late. He gets one kill, but it's not the one he needs. Disbalance with the P250 cleans up shop, and Syman are sweating bullets.
They almost had that. Yeah, he could have isolated that guy defusing the bomb. The smoke was dissipating, I think, to the point that I want to assume he could have seen them if he had peeked farther over the edge, but because he didn't, wasn't able to capitalize on that diffuser. That could have been a very, very big upset, but Syman live another day. 4-2 now here for them, and they go up against the buy of Gambit. Gambit now smell blood, knowing they've done so much damage to their opponents, but Syman are still relatively healthy, and it looks like Gambit are going to start off with another kind of fast bout of control at both ladder and T-Con.
Nealon just rips them to pieces. They try to go for that explosive ladder play, and it costs them half their buy. A single exit from T-Con as well, then cleaned up in the form of Doja. Perfecto's flank is progressive, already taking so much map control. I mean, Gambit, they wanted to explode, and it seemed like Syman were ready for that.
It looks like Syman understand that they're not going to try to fake, which is a huge bit of information if they can feel confident about it. Perfecto doing these fast pushes, I mean, yeah, a few people died already, but he's done this twice now, and he's done it like almost at the beginning of the round, so I think they're seeing that they don't assume Gambit's going to fake, and when they see these flashes out of T-Cons and a couple player come out, that this was their whole plan. The other thing is that Syman might have had a really good ladder spawn, and unless Gambit have a good T-Con spawn to come out and try to catch them crossing, that player who goes in a ladder, I mean, we saw what Fur did at the last major, where like anybody who comes down ladder is just going to get destroyed. He doesn't even have to think about what kind of play they'll make. He can just hold the same angle round after round and melt players. So Gambit now down to the last two, and there's an Ivy push here to try to round things out.
Ooh. A couple of assists thanks to the flank, and the Opera will clean up shop. So that's 10 kills now for Disbalance. First man to hit the double digits. I mean, the entire round, you know that Syman knew exactly where Gambit were, just wanted to choke them out and take minimal losses. Losing Perfecto, a bit of a bummer, but we'll move along. And Gambit will as well, back in with another buy. That round loss bonus starting to stack up now to full effect.
They should be worried. They've thrown kind of two Hail Marys with these fast rushes and got shut down really easily. Didn't leave with a bomb plant or any map control. They've already taken a ton of damage early on. I don't think they have ladder control just yet. No, it doesn't look like it. And so Syman are going to be totally fine with this. However, this player, oh my god, pushing to Olaf gets absolutely destroyed. Mir faceless from what should have been a pretty comfortable spot.
Oh, and then Disbalance gets the op from downrange. So sure enough, Gambit, they come in with something slightly different. Like you noticed, no ladder control straight out the gate, a 3-man stack up in T-Con. And Nealon, it seemed like he just wanted info, wanted to see whether or not that Gambit had actually come past their own smokes. They had Toric deep within Ivy. He was already here past Doja, locking down the dumpsters. And now in a 5v3, they will sit clean and pretty. Another op shot from Disbalance.
Yeah, it seems like they don't have much of a plan once they start losing players. They're throwing caution to win with all these pushes, and at that point I can kind of see why they're getting a bit desperate, but it's, you know, Gambit are the ones who let this map through. You think they'd be prepared up until the last second of every round, so a bit worrying for Gambit for sure. And stopping an outside rush is not always that difficult. There's certain teams that are going to make it a lot harder for you. Can also just have very fortunate spawns on the T side versus very unfortunate spawns on the CT side, like not getting a good ladder spawn, for example. But in this situation, ladder players been able to get himself there safely almost every single time, and they've got that forward sandwich player doing a fantastic job of shutting it down outside. And I'd like to see what kind of nades they use, but typically, you could throw just a flash, and if it bounces off the T-Con wall, in front of Blue Train, as players are rushing out, most of them aren't going to be turned. It slows down the rush completely. So depending on what kind of nades they're throwing, that could be all they need to make it too hard for them to get out. Pause called here. Gambit have not too much money. This time they are going to try to save. Doja, one smoke. Last time we saw him outside T-Con. This time he's going to be leading the charge inner.
Inner, not a place we've seen Gambit hit too often, except for on these sorts of light pistol buys. And remember how close, just how close the previous round like this did come down to.
I do think it is a good idea when you know a team plays back on inner to try to send your ecos here. Even if you get the bomb plant, that's kind of all you want.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, you know, any bomb site that has the closer point of entry, when you're not expecting to have longevity in your lifespan, you just go for it. But this time, Perfecto seems ready. Remember, the only reason it really started to unfold the way it did last time this happened was because Nealon was caught with a Molotov in his hand and wasn't able to kill them on the entry. It nearly looks like that was about to happen once more. But he gets himself back in position, spots the bodies up and above, and Sanji spotted the players on the cross. They've picked up 3 frags before bombs planted, so what a much more successful endeavor here from Syman. Sanji rushes plant, and he gets the kill immediately. That's a cleaned up shop on a 3K in the anti-eco.
Yeah, and it looks like a disaster, but at least they get the bomb down, so that's something nice for Gambit. But again, this is what Syman planned for. They just don't want to lose the round, so they don't play anybody close to the ramp. They don't have anyone Dennis or Spools. Instead, they just want to be able to throw their Molotov when they see the bomb getting planted, throw a nade, hopefully catch the bomb crossing, and worst comes to worst, have to retake. But it's a really safe retake to do, especially when you have 5v5. But Syman off to a strong start already, very, very strong. What is going to be the opening for the T's? We've seen so many rushes outside. I'd like to see something a little bit different because at this point, they are going to bait Syman into throwing a lot of their nades early. So that's great, but that's going to make it so hard to actually go for an outside take.
Ooh, that's what Gambit needed. We talked about the consistency in the flanks from Perfecto, that aggressive B play that was a part of this round. But Nealon has snuck his way through T-Con, and if it wasn't for Mir ready for that, maybe he gets control of bomb and throws a spanner in the works. Does not seem to be the case. Gambit straight out the gates with a very successful endeavor. But a very different affair, right? They were ready for that B push, they get their opening pick in this position, and the double man setup on Ivy is how they finally shut down Disbalance. I think the successful op play from Syman has been a big piece of their success early on.
I think it would have been the ultimate indignation if Syman were able to push all of those different choke points like they tried to do and then got away with those kills. You know,
right.
That probably would have left Gambit with absolutely no confidence. But the small risk they ran, obviously, was Gambit going for a slower default, not rushing outside one more time, and catching all of these pushes as we saw them do. So here, Syman, in that sense, kind of throwaway rounds, but they have a lead to work with, and you're not going to be able to implore rounds like that when you're in a tight situation, right? When it's like almost match point, you're not going to want to try to go for these types of strats. So I suppose it's fine that they throw caution to the wind earlier on in the game.
Whoa, a second frag. Perfecto's racking up the cash here, causing some losses. But it'll be Mo to shut him down.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, if Perfecto killed me and I saw this guy with this just like lean looking at me with his eyebrows raised, I'd feel a little disrespected.
I noticed that. There's a bunch of them just kind of swerving, keeping it cool and calm and collected. Might be the lowest ranked team at the entire event, but we're about to upset to start the day. That's the beliefs they need to have. The reset looms above the heads of Gambit like a guillotine poised to strike. Does it cut them down early on? That momentum could be grinded to a halt. But it seems like they're going to keep up the pace, moving over towards the Brown Halls. Bondic leads the charge, ready for the push that may be. But Sanji falls off instead.
And this time, we've got, I think, T-Con, I don't know if that was scouted out. It looked like Nealon looked through it a little bit and then fell out. And it's actually moved over towards ladder. So here is a great setup once again for Syman. They don't have to do anything particularly aggressive. Gambit going back to their roots and abusing Ivy, which worked so well for them in the first 2 rounds that they won. Doja here trying to get a lurk off, but Nealon comes away with the 2 kills, and Torek finds Doja. Yep,
this is an exact same affair. We've seen this round before. That ladder control, the double kill that comes from it. My, oh my. Nealon, good for easy frags. And it's not easy fighting Doja on Ivy, right? He is a classic lurker, and he seems to know his Ivy angles well. However, in this case, shut down and dealt with swiftly. Torek, you could see him. He takes like 1 or 2 shots and then gets back behind the box. Doesn't want to open up any portion of the map for them to get into. So Mo will be entirely encompassed. How many players does he knock down with him? That's 2. And Perfecto seals the deal.
Okay, thank goodness he got those last 2 kills. Yeah. Missed an absolute sitter there on the first shot, but I think your team's going to remember what you hit last, so that's good. But that was I mean, I'm not mad at Gambit for going for the control that they did. I actually like them going back to Ivy just because it worked so well for them early on. It's also conducive to a slower default style because Ivy takes so long to get control of, and the fast stuff has just been falling flat for Gambit. So I think Ivy was good for both of those reasons. But the holds were too strong, man. Nealon's fantastic by himself at ladder, and Torek also got his kill at Ivy. So.
Ooh, but now this is real quick, real slick. Torek has to fall off, disbalance, ready for the wrap out, but they've lost a member. While he may be doing wallbang damage, he's not actually cut them down. Gambit now all around the bomb site, and even more successful as Axile and Mir start to rack up headshots. Torek still maintains this side of bomb train, and Mir, susceptible to the frag grenade, will dodge it this time around. The play slows down, but then the flanks come in. Bondic strikes Torek from behind, and the op fires off for a 4th round here to the favor of Gambit.
Not too bad. They pulled the split off, and Gambit have the potential here to look forward to an 8-7.5, and they wouldn't have to think about all the rounds they lost in such kind of unflattering fashion in the first half so far. But for Syman, they have the money to buy one more time. They can go ahead and write that one off. I think they'll be just fine. I don't know what kind of spawns we're looking at here, but I'd like to see if they go for ladder control one more time. It looks like Gambit are deciding to put a lot of attention towards outside. Perfecto is going to be able to cross, and we see that flash, right? He actually did get stopped, but they had no one to jump out the blue to stop him from crossing fully, right? To just get that kill, make sure that no one can be down ladder. Now it's a whole lot more dangerous to get down there, and Mo's dead.
Yeah, the incendiaries this round immediately block off that T-Con control. That's one of the reasons that Gambit were so successful in the previous round. Remember, at the start of this game, Syman, they were using those Molotovs and frags on T-Con every single round in the first few seconds. But it had gone on for so long that they forgot that was a part of the equation. Gambit sniff it out and use that to add at least 1 round to the scoreboard. But are they then immediately reset? That's the big question. Nealon continuously looming at this A site. Always good for a frag or 2. I believe he's surpassed Disbalance, but nobody's keeping Doja in check. The Ivy player ready to strike if he can.
Man, it looked like Axile needed to be good for 1 there. He pushed out to the Olaf, and then he knew that his opponent was on top of the train. And I want to say that that was an easy shot. We weren't spectating him, but it looked like that's one that you've got to get, especially in a situation like this. Could have been 4-4. And now Amir has a shadow advantage on this fight and still doesn't win it. Nealon has been so consistent from this position.
But that did enable Doja to get out, and it's not even going to matter. Nealon is just tearing up shop at the moment. Bondic, lurk and loom all you like. There's nobody to be found and no bomb to be possessed. Here we've got a breakdown of the scoreboard so far. ADR off the charts here for Sanji. That's wild now that I think about it. Look at the kill count in comparison to the damage between him and Nealon.
He's been kind of a rotator. I think he's gotten a couple eco kills on the players who've come inside, but he did his job from that respect as well. And then when he's had to rotate through Z to take care of outside, he's been a key player. So I think that all adds up. I'm going to go ahead and say those numbers are accurate.
Yeah. Give him the benefit of the doubt.
And that's another clean, easy round for Syman. It's hard to tactically say what they could have improved because I mean, first of all, I want to say that Gambit should have hit that op shot to take him off the train in the first place, and then we wouldn't have seen Doja die at Ivy after coming out past him. So I feel like, a lot of this could have been dealt with from a mechanical standpoint alone. But even beyond that, they just are having either such an easy time getting outside quickly or getting shut down completely and not having a mid-round to work with where they can have maybe 3v3 where they might shine outside, walking around trains and showing us why they picked train in the first place.
Good read on the economy here from Syman. I feel we've had this consistent anti-eco over for Gambit on these B bomb sites, and sure enough, it's this round when they only have the single AK of Bondic that they go for a 3-man setup on B. And Sanji's poised to strike, comes wide, 2 headshots, and then he runs into the raid boss. Bondic has done his job, as has Mo. That draw the rotator back through CT spawn. Now these B players know they are pinched. Perfecto in not a perfect position. But he'll wait. Because he waits, Gambit decide to double back. All the while, Nealon seems cerebral. He's gonna stay at this A site, anticipating a potential ladder drop in that rotator, which could be true. Mo will continue to feel out B in the meantime, and this frag could be a big one. Whether it goes to Perfecto or Mo, that's the question, and it's back into the 2v2.
Damn, that comes down to timing. 2 players coming down to the B site, though, with one of the CT spotted, knowing the other one is probably in some rotator spot, and they've got to get the plant 20 seconds up, so Perfecto throws a well-placed grenade. I don't know if he had a great lineup for that, but it'll be past the point of no return now as Gambit move their way to upper.
They're still wary of that potential flank. They don't realize both of the CTs now within the bomb site. Nealon's anticipating the ramp peak, but both players come striking up from above. They know that Bondic's in there. Nealon continues to tap, and he'll take the frag on top of it. That's double digits for Syman, and one last chance for Gambit.
That's absolutely tilting. Bondic's got to be so upset. He didn't even want to show his whole body. It looked like he was just a bit too flagrant on the shoulder peak, and I feel like I think he might not have been able to see anything with his camera, but Nealon just decided to spray as soon as he tapped the bomb, and it caught him on a good timing. So that's tough. That's a really tough round for Gambit. And not only that, but then Mo catching bad timing on Perfecto, walking up oil, trying to figure out where the third team might be, and then luckily finding him, even though it was an op that was looking in his general direction. Just a series of unfortunate events, but that's not a bad start for Gambit. Mo comes down the ladder, gets the op shot, gets away clean.
Third time's the charm.
Right.
They're finally able to get that ladder control initially. Toric's flank already spotted, so he just dips out a dodge, and he'll fall back into the A site.
His threat alone is going to cause Gambit to have to work to clear things out slowly, which is nice, even though he doesn't get a kill. But the big thing that Gambit have going for them is that they're up 5-4, and we've got an interesting stack here for Syman. I think they've assumed that they pushed Gambit into wanting to go inner, but that would obviously be kind of a risky move just because they saw how much control Syman had, right? So the jig on the stack is up, if you will. And now they've started to move back into their positions outside. Gambit don't seem too unnerved at this point. And here's Doja to let them know that they have worked back to get Ivy control, so they can't have any free stacks.
Right. Toric's been flushed out. Falls further and further forward towards the side of T-Con, all the while Gambit get into B. So, disbalance, ineffective at the moment. He'll take his position over towards the spools as Axile just plays outside of Z. Now this cuts off all the rotators. This is a big problem for Syman, but there's a problem for Gambit as well, and that's the big flank coming in from Torek. They have lost the Opper up and above. Torek yet to activate as his teammates tumble. One after another, they've fallen to the 4 versus 2. It seems as though Gambit have gotten this through. A 5th round is theirs to finalize the first half.
Hey, not bad. And it was straight fundamentals, but that's it. A 10-5 half for Syman, and we'll be right back with the second half after this quick break.
Syman Gaming is not going down without a fight. A team that I think a lot of people were ready and willing to write off here at the CIS Minor have gotten themselves 10 rounds versus Gambit. Now that is 10 rounds on the CT side of Train. I've made this mistake before.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm not willing to say it's in the bag just yet, but at least we know they're competent. I mean, personally, I'm blown away by Nealon's performance so far.
He's nuts, man. He was really good, and he was just playing like the forward aggressive position outside, which is one of the most volatile. You don't have any help from your teammates. You're going to take the brunt of the nades coming outside of T-Con, and he held it down. Round after round, he delivered. So really standout performance from him. 10-5 half, and honestly, it was a lot of Syman doing well, a lot of Gambit looking a little bit one-dimensional, to be honest. They got together a little bit towards the end, but now we're into the second half, and that smoke comes clutch. It looked like a fast play, and Bondic makes sure that can't happen.
Right, he gets that man advantage immediately. So this section's off Nealon from the rest of his team, 3 of which, of course, are here on Ivy. Ready for that smoke to fade. I wonder if Gambit just wanted to get through that T side as quick as possible. That's why they continued with the same strats over and over. Lots of pushes, lots of rushes. We'll see if they can lock it down on the defensive. The headshots seem so swift, and that's for both of these teams. Perfecto and Nealon looking to pinch now into the A site, but one side of the pincer has been broken straight off. Bondic, great job keeping himself alive and keeping himself on the move. So Perfecto should be doomed, and he is. That's 6 for Gambit and a pistol that I'd argue they needed.
I'm glad that it's not over, you know, that we don't have a situation where Syman just run away with it moving in the second half. I've got a lot to see about Syman, and they are good at Train, so I want to know why it was that Gambit pick train versus them, and how well can Syman stand up to them in a LAN environment with a lot of pressure and with the prospect of moving on to the biggest tournament of the year.
And of their lives.
Yeah, and just in their just of their lives.
I mean,
in
had they qualified for DreamHack Open, that would have been the biggest of their
event of their lives.
So
yeah.
we're making big jumps, leaps and bounds here, just like Syman are to the B site. They're going to be flying that bomb downwards. Doja going to cook their feet as fast as he can. Mo's grenade's fantastic. That's a double frag. Well, frag. And Sanji spins for the bomb plant.
You know, that works 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was probably the slowest spin I've ever seen, though.
I know, his low sense spin. He needs to have the DPI switcher at the ready.
Just doing 90-degree turns.
But now he's got confirmation bias. He just thinks he freaked Dosia out. But, well, wow, that was intense. That was epic music. I'd like to hear the rest of it.
Yeah, I fell off a cliff there. I was ready to... I was sweating bullets.
Yeah.
So, Syman, they have themselves a bye. I see AKs on their backs. Let's see what they're made of. Let's see if they just decide to slam their heads against the wall into this outer site like Gambit.
And T-side will be telling. And T-side is definitely what they're prepared to play. So, how is this round going to look? This sets the tempo, the mood, the pace for the second half. They know this is going to be one of the buys that they're going to be on an even footing, if not have an advantage in, because of the saves that Gambit have had from the last round, where they're kind of looking at this as some type of bonus. So how do Syman work the map control? What parts of the map do they go for? Mo hits that fantastic spray. Damage in return, and a lot more his way. So pretty good bout from Syman so far at Ivy. And the rest of the map is relatively quiet. We've got a 2-3 setup, but Axile has ladder control. I personally don't see a reason for Gambit to do much more than this. They're ready for a T-Con split. They have to come back and think about Ivy in a second. If they're at all concerned that this default could be unpredictable, I don't know why they would have a hard read that would tell them otherwise, but kind of dangerous spots if Sanji gets far up here.
Here he comes, creeping and crawling with a smirk on his face. And an AK in his hands, he's ready to rock and roll. But Mo scoped in on him.
Oh, look at that. He has that pre-aim ready to go.
Oh, once he's allowed, once he's unleashed. But it's Syman over towards B. And Ivy initially shut down. A fast flank already up ladder from Axile, ready to rock and roll. Mir drops off of the oil tankard. And they're not going to be able to deny the plant. Doja comes swinging wide and does immediately pick up 2 players. This throws everything up into the air. Perfecto, well, he's locking down the upper halls. Torek just wants to clear Doja out of here because he's just disappeared into the night. And an instant dink versus Perfecto makes dire straights ahead. Axile's got him busy as the defuse comes through. And while Perfecto does get 1 kill, he could swing out and drop Doja, but Mir should stop him. The timing's there, and sure enough, so's the headshot.
Nice retake. Really, I don't know where Doja came from, but I never really do, so I'm not surprised.
I don't know if he does.
Yeah, I think you just have to kind of...
He came flying up the ramp lane.
Okay.
Just charged right out through their smoke.
Okay, so he did push through. He wasn't like some weird big flank that got by a player upstairs.
No, sir.
Okay. So nothing crazy like that, but that was, yeah, good play. He had a fantastic UMP spray to take out 2 players, put Syman now in a situation where they have enough money to buy. They've got 1 flash, but they have a whole lot of smoke. So I don't know what degree of tactical that makes this round, but I will say it'll be a type of a challenge for them to try to execute properly with the kind of grenades that they have at their disposal.
Now, we talked about Nealon and his forward positioning on this A site for Syman. I feel like Bondic taking up his place is a good comparison to be making here, because Bondic to me is always good for 1 or 2. Let's see what he can do. Frag grenade goes out. Oh, but there's just so many bodies and so much pressure that he manages a single frag. Luckily, Mo's there to pick up 1 piece. And the bomb, well, not going to go down just yet. Perfecto spots that peek out. Mir's position known. But there's so many players inside the smoke. I mean, the entirety of Syman are here on top of each other. And Mir's just toying with them as Gambit try to get into position. They've lost a body. Perfecto, he's just taking his time with this.
This is crazy. Mo's not in a... Oh my god, I was thinking it's going to be hard for him to get up there And Disbalance is going to take a risk here, peeking right into the crosshairs of Mo, but Doja swings wide enough to make sure he can't get into a very difficult to deal with after plant spot. Important frag from Doja in those final moments. Good trade from him.
Man, I feel like Mir, he jumped up on the train to try and stop bomb, but then once Syman decided not to plant, he was in such a tough position. His teammates nowhere to be found as they were in the depths of Ivy, and he's playing around smokes, trying to figure where they've got off to. Syman consistently just keep planting bomb for a second, trying to get his peek out, and sure enough, he opens that round up. So Syman almost claw back into this, but what an explode out T-Con. That's not something we ever saw successfully happen for Gambit. And Syman are going to get it straight out the gates.
And it was really loose. I think there's a risk with that doesn't work as well the next time that they try it, though we can compare what Syman do on this round, the second rifle round of the half, versus what Gambit tried to do. And I think at Gambit, at least in their first couple of rounds, they actually went slow, but in the successive rounds decided to throw a lot of the caution of the wind, going out of T-Con fast off of one flash. I'd like to see if Syman try to do something different. The thing is that they're on another buy. Because they got that bomb plant down again, and they know that Gambit were so low last round, they might be incentivized to try something quick because they're going to be low on utility. The problem is that they know Gambit have all of the incendiaries that they'll need to stop an outside rush, and they've gone for one of each grenade, which has become, you know, a more consistent thing from teams on most maps. But for all of these reasons, it's not going to be easy to get out without taking damage. Few nades come out of T-Con, and Torek has this fantastic spawn. He's already out to Olaf and can hold from this position as his teammates decide to run through inner, and they are not wasting any time.
Oh, Sanji just pops straight over the Molotov, nails Mir against the wall, and now these rotators are sent scrambling through the depths of which they came. CT spawn occupied by 2. A member on A site still hesitant to leave. That's Bondic versus Torek. Torek's seen him, and Bondic the same. This duel is important because it could cut off Gambit entirely. If he opts to push through Z, they have no chance. They know it. Gambit are gone.
That's rounds right there, right? That's a 3v3. That would have been the big flank taken down. So they would, you know, that's a big point of comfort for the CTs, and because they lose those kills, they move right into a safe. So what a round from Syman. I mean, I say that, and I want to try to applaud the team play, but it was really just Sanji to hit 2 of the most ridiculous entries that you could ask for after coming through a smoke, being smoke blind, and then hitting a player, knocking him down, turning 90 degrees and killing a rotator in a spot that they are ready to pre-aim. You know, it's not a kill that you can ask for every round, but it is one that was necessary for them to win.
And he just barely jumps past the edge of that smoke as well, right? He's not only smoke blind, but he just gets his movement out long enough to deny Doja anything close. If he comes up 1 foot short, then he's still blind in that moment, and it's all going to be shut down. Doja's going to commit to the spray. Like we said, that quick rotator out from Z. So hell of a shot, ×2 for Sanji. But hard to replicate.
And again, we've got the kind of 2-tiered executes. As we can see, we saw a lot of nades go over T-Con, but not all of the smokes. Instant entry from Nealon, and now it's on Mo.
Nice couple of kills there for him. Double scoped on top of it all. Does catch Torek, so now Syman entirely out from T-Con. They've got men up and above. That's disbalanced down. And a follow-up. Mo gunning for the ace. That's 4 frags on the A hold. It is closed, folks. Sanji behind E-Box, desperate for an attempt in this clutch, but they know exactly where he's at. The scope's honed in, he's pinned down, and he's done. 5 frags from Mo.
Gonna assume here that that's the first ace of the minor, and I'm gonna make another assumption that if it isn't, it's the best.
Yeah.
So far, that was almost 5 for 5. Missed the last shot, but that was nasty. And honestly, Nealon got the entry coming out of ladder, so that would have been a situation where they had Olaf control and 4 players swinging wide, F1 race car peak across E-Box and taking over the A site, if not for Mo making sure that he got those 4 kills first. So
before this game went live, you alluded to, you know, Mo, we know he has a high skill ceiling, but it's the consistency always, and it can be map dependent. Train is one of his playgrounds.
yeah.
You know, throw in overpass, and I feel like that's where he's at his best. So best of luck, dear Syman.
Pretty nasty stuff back and forth from both teams. But I think justice was served. That last round, Syman, I want to say we're pretty fortunate to have won it. And here, Gambit kind of get their revenge as well.
pistols being picked apart as expected. No bomb plant off of it. This is one of the few rounds where we don't see Syman get a bomb plant. All, of course, while they're just cultivating cash, so this is not going to be a buy from them either. If anything, maybe Disbalance can drop some pistols around, you know, share the love, little team bonding experience. But Gambit have now tied this all up at 11 rounds apiece.
Yeah, and it is well deserved for sure. No, the pistol was one thing, but then winning those versus the rifle buys was great. And Syman have done a good job with their economy, where they've been able to get bomb plants most of the time, as you mentioned. That was the first round in a while they haven't, but they've been able to pull out buys. They pulled out after one save, they pulled out 2 or 3 rifle buys in a row. So they, you know, are back to it now. They've even got an op here. I don't think they have as much utility as they like to have, which is something to be concerned about. If I'm Sanji, I mean, I'm just going for a full. Okay, so go ahead and just indulge in a deagle, my friend. You worked hard, but yeah, they don't have many nades. I would have probably gone for the CZ Tech 9, CZ/Tech 9 in a full utility belt, just to be a bro.
Right.
But
just to help support.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is a good setup for Doja. Pop flash at the perfect time, but he feels too much of a threat to really commit there. I don't blame him. You don't want to chuck that M4 over. Now Perfecto is just going to look to lock down the Brown Halls at a question mark here above the heads of Gambit, because they're not quite sure where this attack comes from. Axile falls off a bit, but it's actually a fake. He's doubling back around the angle, trying to draw Sanji in, and with that deagle in hand, he is expendable. He's trying to set up Disbalance for an opening kill.
And it's pretty calm on the server. We've seen on the defaults from Syman. They don't actually do a whole lot while they're waiting. Last time we saw kind of a late fake after poising to try to take some control. Sanji goes down pretty low. Axile's on 1 HP, might be enough to net him a kill before he goes down, depending on what position he takes here. But 3 players, including the bomb, have now moved their way through the White Halls and are going to be setting up for a B hit as they run down the ramp. Not clearing anything.
No, they're just going to trudge right out. Doja, he's enabled them to get onto this bomb site with 5 members strong. Remember, there are still, I was going to say an op in play, but Mo's dropped it right away. An exchange, a trade, a flurry of frags that then holds off instantly. Things go quiet. Tension thick and the smoke thinning. That's what Mo's waiting for. A chance to just flush them out into the open and drop bodies. Axile, 1 HP, easy peasy for Torek. And that bomb's now 3/4 of the way gone. This is not going to be a good retake if they opt to trudge forward. Very difficult play here from Gambit. They waited way too long to try and make this happen, and now the costs stack up. Mo tries to leave, and death looms above. That's a breakout round for Syman.
How awkward is that? I mean, at the end of the round, one of the Ts died, one of the last 2, but the only reason that happened was because Gambit fought till the bitter end in a situation where even if they got the kills, they wouldn't have been able to defuse. Mo should have probably hung on to that op, and we don't know whose call it was to continue on for a retake that was inevitably going to cost them the round and all their guns. But ultimately, that wasn't a great decision. And maybe there wasn't enough communication, that was the problem. But we can't see that from the outside. All we know is that Gambit went ahead and threw that one away. So they will still buy. Doja, fortunately, can only have a UMP now as what is normally going to be the solo inner position, but he's got a teammate for the moment. Don't know if Syman are going to try to capitalize on the fact that they might be buying. They're going to see this ladder smoke and think, okay, there's still there's potential here that they have invested a lot of money. Let's find out what kind of guns they have. This is a really risky peak because of the shadow, and again, Nealon sees one on the top of the train as well, but Bondik is going to go ahead and make sure to clear his angle properly and take him down.
Right, good on Bondik there to check beneath his feet. Tries to react to predictable ladder peak, but that's where he falls and fumbles. Bomb still down on the dirt. Syman encroaching closer to the A site, but someone will have to double back. And you can see Bondik, Mo, not feeling careful in that A site, not feeling all too confident. So he'll play it safer into the depths, where this op can really come to shine.
Not even sure who's going to have the advantage right now, but the stack towards inner is Yeah, Gambit bite full force on it actually. So just do, you know, a simple couple of nades coming down simultaneously to sell the fake, and Mo is going to rotate in. It's 3v3 now. iDisbalance though has the better angle. Takes him down, retains Ivy control for his team as the bomb gets planted and puts Mir and Doja in a terribly awkward situation.
Right, we saw a great B retake from them. This time less information, but at least it's even ground now. Disbalance dropped into equilibrium. 2v2. Grenades near non-existent for Syman. A single flash and no kit here for Mir. So time, a real big problem, and he knows it. He's gonna just swap to the AK and try to survive. That is a 13th for the T's.
Oof. Yeah, it's getting to dangerous territory at this point.
I feel like really clamping down on that inner rotate with Mo moving over kind of comes back to bite them. Sure, he does get that kill for the player who comes out ladder room, but Disbalance had been just around the corner. You could see Mo anticipating an Ivy player, but not that far forward. Had he not been so close to the B site, maybe it goes another way.
Yeah, they definitely were trying to pull the goalie and just stack the site, and it was because of the nades that came down the lower ramp. They said, okay, well, if they come inner and this isn't a fake, we'll be in a pretty good position to stop this 3 players here. If they go outside, well, I think they would have called it. They will most likely save, because trying to retake in that position is even less likely.
Right.
You know, having 1 player outside, let alone 0. So I think when Mo was fortunate enough to get that 1 kill, then they were like, all right, maybe we should go for this because it's so close. But at that point, it was actually Syman who were totally comfortable, had great after-plant spots, and made it unwinnable.
And props to Syman, using the little utility they had at the B site to draw out the fake. It goes perfectly for them. They run back into that A site with no utility at all. So, you know, really banking on the fact that, like you said, Gambit would pull their goalie, or the opper, in which they did. This round, of course, it was only Mo with the op, doesn't find any action, takes a bit of damage and decides his life is not worth it. So these pistols will surround him, and that's a 14th for Syman as Gambit give it up. Oh, Nelly.
Yeah, they earned the situation, and that was another thing that Gambit needed to factor in the last round. Is if we're not going to have money this next round, what are the odds that we win this retake? And if they're low enough, do we want to make sure that we don't give them match point if we lose here? And that was a decision that they made, and it looks like at least Mo has an op from this round that he saves. He takes over. Everybody else looks like they're going to be able to buy. Overall, I think it's not going to be a terrible buy, but Syman are going to recognize that this is this could be it for them. They're not going to have money next round if they win. So what's the strategy? I think Syman have so many options. It's just going to be about if they can try to have Gambit bite on a fake. I mean, if I'm them, I could throw caution to the wind and go outside quickly, but I'd be happy to take it slow as well. I think they have many options here. So initial smoke goes out to Sandwich to block any vision from the train stopper to T-Con. So if there's an op, he's got to wait 15 seconds before he can really help his team out. Mo is going to be assisting Axel in an uncomfortable position, but because he has that AWP, he can be pretty useful, pretty integral, especially if Syman want to hang out here.
Ooh. Dodges the grenade for the most part. We've seen Mo take chunky damage off the frags before. Axile now with no support, but he hears all these pins being pulled, so he goes for the wide peak ×2. Ends up falling to Disbalance. Now this puts the entire A site setup into question. Bondic, he's going to spray down the T-Con player that comes out last, and Mo does find the entry. So all of Syman now coming out from Ivy. It's a 2 versus 4 situation. Disbalance in an awkward spot as the head peek comes in from spawn, and Torek sits back, relaxed, as he dies to the hands of Mir.
Yeah, they're really comfortable once they have that bottom Ivy control. I felt like Axel played it a bit risky going for the re-peek when we don't know how many nades they would have had to like flush him out, but Mo was so close already. He left for a second, but he'd wrapped his way through Old Bomb, and he was close enough that he could have came and peeked and helped him and made that even more one-sided, I suppose, but it seemed to be fine at the end of the day. Gambit pulled that out with majority alive, and now Syman are the ones who have a broken buy, so not a bad round here for the offense, or for the defense, I should say.
Early volley of nades once more from Gambit. And that goes the same here towards the B site. Immediate ladder control up for Bondic, but he gets flushed out by the fire. He's going to go back in for second servings as Axile gets boosted up. That's a good position to catch a couple players off guard. And if you know Syman are doing this consistent Ivy lurk, you know, the 1-2 player walkout, Axile will be good to go. It really enables the forward positioning of Gambit on the A site when you have him boosted here.
It might come down to if they clear it or if Syman even commit. But they have done this before. And again, the whole thing about making Ivy presence is it's so far away from inner, you wouldn't think that a team is going to test Ivy without committing to a certain extent and then run all the way back. But both teams have done this already, which is kind of interesting. And it looks like this might be another round where they try to make this happen. Going inside could pose to be a threat. Gambit, although they have information on T-Con, are just as afraid of outside as they are of inside.
Bondic ready to fly up the ladder if need be. Mo still has not seen anything at A, and Doja, he's just going to keep his eyes on the fires. Then the flash is perfect, but he can't nail that second spray down. So the bomb plant, sure enough, is theirs. Syman have it in. And a disbalance frag. He's going to put this into the advantage of the T's. Mir spotted out. Doesn't know whether or not Sanji's going to come wrapping around the train yard, so he just bunkers down. He's waiting for reinforcements, waiting for that flank. Bondic a little slow at the moment, but all three players do have kits. Disbalance, scoped in. Gets him. Easy pick. And then Axile's caught swapping guns as him and Mir try to eject out of the bomb site. That is 15 for Syman. Overtime secured at the very least, with 3 chances for Gambit to claw this back, or one hell of an upset. Remember, Syman, 117th ranked team in the world.
Don't make it sound so good, Connor.
117.
Yeah.
I can't even name 116 Counter-Strike teams that would be better than them.
Yeah, yeah. And certainly that ranking could change a lot with just one tournament, so we'll hopefully see that happen. But a hard-fought overtime secured. It looks like they're in a good position to take this. Again, as we talked about, Gambit don't have too much money. But a fundamentally sound round from Syman. They go for Ivy control, as they have been doing, and then they take it to inner, which they've gone back to. And for Gambit, they have 2-3, so they're ready for an inside hit as well. They had Doja in a perfect spot to wait for a flash and try to hit more than one player if possible, but Sanji, once again coming down the lower ramp, was so good on the entry and made sure to get that trade, and then Gambit just couldn't keep up in the fragging department. It was a pretty standard round, and they had 2 players waiting. Hopefully that doesn't happen again, since Gambit couldn't have had a better setup to work with, to be honest. Had a lot of information as well, so we could see Mo kind of looking into T-Con. Had that last round with the smoke down. They had spotted down Ivy for a moment. Here's Doja. Finally catch them crossing. And the pin is pulled on the incendiary. Just going to drag another player back into the site. They've got the same setup, and it looks like Syman might try to run the gamut one more time on inner. However, Mir has made his way forward.
Axile as well now clearing out Ivy in its entirety. That's a surefire call for Mo to rotate over. Now, he doesn't have his trusty op, and Mo has been the heaviest hitter for Gambit. So let's see if he can lock it down with the AUG instead. The fire comes flying forward. Toric just the same. Doja's ump not going to be successful at that range, and with 3 entry frags, the B site has fallen. Gambit on the retake with Bonded and Axile, an MP9, a FAMAS. And while the flank has already got itself ready in the upper halls, I mean, how the hell does Bondic close this distance? He's all the way back in spawn. Nobody's going to give him a close duel because Syman are within this bomb site. They are locking it down, holding on. Axile caught midair, and there you have it. Syman with the upset. Gambit taking a fall early here at the CIS Minor.
Hey man, you could call it a bad veto, you could call it a great individual performance, but Syman looked prepared for Trine, and Gambit didn't do enough for themselves in the first half, you know, losing it 10-5 in the first place. Comes close towards the end, but Syman, 4 rounds the difference. They had a very strong map.
I feel like there's definitely enough variation in that T side of Syman for them to kind of, you know, very clearly be confident on this map. But go back to Gambit's T side, it was very much the same thing over and over, right? Running that repetitiveness. And maybe it's because they were that much more confident in their CT setups. There was good variation from Gambit. You know, we had these interesting boosts. We had these very forward and aggressive plays. They weren't shying away from, you know, these team play type moments. Mo, very active, very successful. but who else had to be there with him? I mean, we looked to the Bondics. We looked to maybe Axile, a young player that was looking to prove himself here today.
Yeah.
But he's got a nasty taste of defeat to start day one.
Yeah, that's a rough map one to start things off. And again, there was a lot of elements. I think a Gambit, especially even like I think one thing that was nice from Syman was we saw like they did a great job of propping their economy up even when they were losing rounds. They got a lot more bomb plants, I want to say, and they had way more buys in the second half than Gambit did on their T side as well. So they had just more opportunities to win, and so things piled up against them or for them. And unfortunately today, Gambit don't win on train.
Right, and it really does come down to the wire. I mean, take into note, I believe it's 2 rounds before the game ends, Gambit get completely reset as well, right? So, very good point. I like that you bring that up. Just the amount of opportunities that Gambit had, not nearly the same as that of Syman. So they were given the opportunities and they made the absolute most of it. Syman over Gambit to begin the day, folks. We'll be back with an opening match of the other group here for the CIS Minor. You're not going to want to go too far.